Welcome back to the Beat the Often Path podcast. I'm your host, Ross Palmer. On Beat the Often Path, we showcase unusual stories because unusual times call for unusual stories. As Hunter Thompson said, when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. And my guest today is very weird and very pro, and I mean that in the best possible way. He's somebody that I have so much respect for. He's done some incredible things commercially. He's written songs for major artists. He's a songwriter by trade, a producer by trade, and he's an artist in his own right. He's done songs for Kygo, and his streams on Spotify are insane. His name is Tienus Konijnenburg, and he has a new act called Goldkimono. But most of all, I admire him because of the way he's lived his life. He lives in a state of, from my opinion, full authenticity, and I think there's so much we can learn from his path, even though it is a very unusual path. So with that, joining me today is Tienus in the house. So I'm here with a good buddy of mine, Martijn Konijnenburg, Rabbit Mountain, aka Tienus. Tienus Songs, legendary songwriter, very cool dude, and now he goes by the name of Goldkimono under his new act. Guy I've known since back in Amsterdam days. Always been one of, if not the best songwriters that I personally have ever met. So how you been, Tienus? What's the good word?
The word is good, man. I'm chilling in France at the moment, which is very nice. Little holiday, so that's very enjoyable.
Yep.
So I'm speaking to you from a comfortable hotel seat.
Nice.
Which is good. Yeah. No, but everything's been great. Things have been pretty solid actually, and new projects been going well. So I'm a happy man as I stand or sit actually.
Nice. Well, I don't know if you know the idea behind this, but the whole point of this podcast is called the Beat the Often Path podcast. So it's about unusual stories, unusual ways that people have succeeded, because obviously it's no secret that right now the usual ways, they don't really work anymore. There's a lot of people who are in a lot of trouble right now because they've taken a more traditional path, and a lot of people who are out of work or they have major problems. So the world is clearly not traditional anymore. So I'm trying to talk to people who have unusual stories or who have carved their own little way out of life. And I think you definitely 100% qualify for that. I don't think any part of your life has been regular in any sense of the word from what I've seen anyways. So maybe give us a little bit of background. Okay, what do you do? Who you are? How you got started? Just a quick intro to Tienus Songs, the writer.
Man, let me take a little pause for a second to see how I'm going to go into this. I guess. Let me just start by saying that I'm a songwriter by profession. Have been for 10, 12 years now, and was always really into music and into playing music, listening to music. Never thought that this would become my profession. Never had a dream of becoming a songwriter or anything like that. It all kind of happened, I don't want to say by chance, but kind of as I went, sort of thing,
Sure.
So if you're talking about off the beaten path, then I think I absolutely qualify because it's it hasn't been the traditional route for me for sure, but it has been a very joyful one, and one that was full of twists and turns and interesting moments. A lot of work, obviously, and but a joyful one. So,
at what age did you start writing songs? What were you doing? How did that begin?
I started writing songs quite late, I think, because some people I hear like I wrote my first song when I was 5. I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That wasn't me, but I did start my musical path when I was like I think 6 years old or something, when I started to take piano lessons, like classical piano lessons. But my first song, I didn't write my first song until I was in my like late teens. and I think my first real like full like songwritery song, I probably wrote when I was I don't know, maybe 19 or something, and that was very obviously very early material, very. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't any good. I loved it, but it wasn't necessarily when you just start out to write songs, or when you start out to do anything. I guess you're a beginner, and that's great. That's fine. You should be, and that's also a really nice stage to be at. But it didn't start to get a bit more serious for me when I did an audition for music schools or for conservatory, and they had a department that was geared towards pop music and contemporary music, and that's where I wanted to get into. And they had I did audition as a pianist but also as a songwriter, because there was also a songwriting module that you could follow.
Okay.
And I realized pretty quickly that I didn't have any songs. So I thought I'd just write the songs for my audition. And my first songwriting experiences were like in hip hop music. So with one of my best friends, and I had written like choruses and rap verses like since I was a teenager, but I'd never really written a real song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I decided to do that for the audition, because I obviously needed to audition as a songwriter. So I wrote these songs, and then off I went to do the audition with those little songs I put together, and eventually ended up getting into the school. Also, I could also as a songwriter, but I ended up choosing piano. So I studied as pianist, but they did approve. So. And when I went to that school, is really where my songwriting, my true songwriting, I'd say, really began and got crafted there.
Sure.
It wasn't until I was like in my early 20s that I really started to do that, and really started to really put in a lot of time and effort, and also joy into that craft of songwriting.
Sure.
And it's something that like I said, that I've never really knew that I would do, but I just loved music, so I just sort of rolled into it. Is that the way you say it? Yeah, I guess.
So how did you so what was the feedback like to your early work? Was it immediately like, this kid's got something, or was it a long road where were they like, wow, or eh?
No, not really. I mean, the most feedback I got was from like friends. You know what I mean? Like I would play them a song on the piano or something, and they would be like, "Oh, this is cool." Or but there wasn't really a system where I could measure myself. I didn't really have a lot of like people that were already in the game or were already doing it that I could like bounce ideas off of. It was just like me and my friends, who were like a couple of my friends who were making music, but that's it. And like when I went to school. When I got in there were other songwriters and stuff, and then you play each other like songs and stuff. But even then, I didn't really have a grasp at like if I was any good, or if this would be something that I could really do or something. I didn't know that yet. And the teachers, they were really they're really cool. They had some good advice, and they listened to the stuff, and they try to give you some guidance, but also they didn't lay it on there like too thick by saying, oh, you suck or you're great or whatever. So
right, just somewhere in the middle.
I just
you're okay.
The only thing for me, what I always followed was that I love to do it, and that I just genuinely fucking loved writing songs, so I just did it every day. And at the end of the first year of school, they want you to learn how to collaborate. So they just put you in a group, and you form a little band with your classmates, and then you have to have to do certain tasks and write songs and perform them, and there's a performing night, and then you get you get judged based on their performance. So me and my friends that I made at that school, we got together and formed this little band. It was a school project, and I started to write my first songs for that band, and that's where I really sharpened my pencil, because I would go in on the daily, early in school, and write those songs, and then go into the rehearsal space and present those songs that I had just written, or the song that I had just written, to the band, and be like, all right, and then try to find an arrangement with them, and like a musical arrangement, and how to play the song. So that was how I it was quite nice, because I came from the rehearsal space by myself into the rehearsal space with the band. So it was a very, very real time sort of one-on-one sort of thing, where you put the song in front of them, I play it for them, and then the first thing is their response. Do they like it?
Sure.
And then the second thing is like, how do we turn this song into something presentable now with the five of us? So it's a process that you learn a lot from, And within that process, there were the teachers that would come in and they would listen to it. And then as I started to do that, I started to find out, like, hey, this has got a groove to it. You know what I mean? Like, this is it quickly shaped into something. And the teachers had that idea as well. They thought at one point that, like, hey man, this is going somewhere,
Right.
So
and speaking of that somewhere, so for the listeners who don't know, obviously later in life, now you've written a number of hits, ones that many people would actually know, like Firestone, for Kygo. You've worked with major artists. At what point did you start getting attention from the major record labels, or how did you bust in from, this is kind of a hobby I'm developing myself? When did you start getting in with those A&Rs, or breaking through, if you will?
Yeah. That was definitely the next stage, because the school I just told you about, I had the luck that the songs I was writing for that band project I was talking to you about, they eventually ventured out of the school system into the real world, and it got really popular in Holland. So that's how I got in touch with the first record label that signed that band at that time, and it became very popular in our country. So we started to tour here, and then you start to sort of enter the music business. And this is my beginning of my second year in school. So,
and was that band was that the Color Ones? Was that the band, or was it a different band?
No, this was called Leaf, and it had a female singer, and that was the first band that really it kind of blew up in Holland. So then you get sort of catapulted into the music scene, and that's how I got my first. How you sort of build your network and you meet people, and et cetera, and based off of that success, people started to ask me, I remember somebody calling me and be like, hey, I'm a manager and I just signed this girl, and would you like to write a song for her? And I'd never done that. I'd never written a song with anybody else, for anybody else, except my own band that I had at the time. So I thought, oh shit, that's a thing. Oh, okay. I was like, sure, let's try it. And so this girl came to me, and she was great. It's great fun. And then, I created songs for her, and they got to be really popular.
Yeah.
This is how we met, Ross. And for the people listening who don't know that, but that's how you and I met, through that project. So it just started to snowball like that, and then when we did that, then more people called and were like, hey, can you produce this, or can you write this? And so it just kind of snowballed from there, in the tiny country of Holland.
When we met, that was one of the first projects. I didn't realize that. I assumed that you had many more before that, but working with Crystal, that was one of the first. Interesting. So that was in some ways, maybe a pivotal moment in your career.
No, absolutely. It really was, because to me, it literally was the first project that I took on from a record label with a real budget and everything. And we were thrown in the deep, if you will. Me and my partner in crime, Skidgy. You know, we
He's
so there
also
was
a really
literally
good dude. Great guy,
yeah, no,
Skidgy
totally, yeah,
Raps.
absolutely,
Very
yeah.
talented mix engineer, very talented fellow, no doubt about it.
Yes, absolutely. And so that project was the first project we took on,
Wow. And a
outside of
little
my
bit
own band.
of little background there. So I was on the couch. I was in those sessions. I was the
Yeah.
English guy since everybody was Dutch. I was teaching English at the time. So I was kind of, helping make sure that the pronunciation was good for all of the takes.
Okay.
So, these guys were doing the musicality of the takes, was the feeling there, but I was the one making sure that things were pronounced the correct way. So I was sitting on the back in the couch for those whole sessions. And I can't remember if I know you said it, but I was possibly even credited on the liner notes as being the guy on the couch, or
100%.
I don't know. There was something like that.
Yeah, we put you in there.
Yeah, thanks for the guy on the couch or something like that. But it was a lot of fun, and I got a chance to see your brilliance firsthand. I mean, that was when I knew for sure that this guy was a genius. I mean, I have the utmost respect for you. I knew without a doubt this guy has whatever that it factor is, that Max Martin thing. I don't know what you would call it, but you have that thing. You've always had it. And I think what was most interesting to me was the way that you approach things is very different, I think, from a lot of other people. And I think that's what people could learn from you. You've always had a very kind of, from my point of view, an intuitive kind of approach. You're way more about feeling things, about vibes. You hardly ever analyze things from what I can tell, or overthink. It's just, does it feel right? And if it does feel right, I think you tend to do more of it. And if it doesn't feel right, I think you almost have like a block, like I got to stop this. And that seems to me to be your guiding light. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, it's very accurate. This is totally how I'm used to work, and I never really thought about it, but that's exactly what I do. It's always been like that for me. I never prepared sessions, or I never walked in with a certain idea. I just always showed up and seized the moment, and always put my energies and my eyes and my ears open to what's in front of me at the moment, and see what happens from there. And it always served me well, because for me that always really worked, because it's I think music and people and energies they are constantly changing, and so for me it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go in there like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and that. Nah, I'm just going to like go in there, put my mind open and experience. And I think vibration and energy is all that I ever go off of, and my sort of natural intuition and instincts there are always my compass and guiding my guiding lines for whatever I'm doing in the studio.
Sure. And
when
still
things,
to this day, sure. And when things don't work out, you're not afraid to take a week off, go to the beach every day, and just say, hey, it's just the energy's not right. I need to step away from this, take an extended break, do something else, and then come back when it feels right. That's also your approach a bit, I think, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, especially in Holland, man, when there's an opportunity to go to the beach, you gotta take it. So a lot of times when I would work with artists and the weather would be great, I would literally call them or give them a WhatsApp and say, look, we have two options. Either like we start early and we go to the beach, or we just go to the beach. And I think that part of it is important as well. And I think taking breaks, but also in general, I think if things don't really work or you're not quite catching it, I'm always, and I always have been, in the mindset of that solution-based thinking. Whether that means that I have to step away, or it means that I have to, I don't know, dive in deeper. Whatever it is, I'm 100% dedicated to the craft and the creation at hand. And I think that's a pivotal thing in our creation process, is that that you don't settle at any point. And you keep looking and you keep finding, and even if that means you got to scratch the whole fucking thing and start over again, or change the whole rhythm section. And you know how it is with music. A lot of times when you change one thing, then you change a whole bunch of other shit. So you have to,
right.
But yeah, to me, it's all about that end result, man, that you're happy and you get that feeling that you want, because that's eventually the translation for somebody else who presses play on the record that you're working on.
How does a very intuitive person, I mean, obviously to make a living from it, there's obviously a business side of things. You wouldn't be able to do it for this long if there wasn't money involved in some way or another. So how did you make the transition? Was it difficult to go from a hobby to this is my main source of income? Or are there things that you wish you knew or would have done differently, or things that helped you on that path?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I definitely had to just learn by doing, because at first I didn't make any money. I was always kind of broke. You know what I mean? And but when I started to make money for the first time, that was with that first band I told you about.
Yeah.
I was also surprised, like, oh shit, you can make money off of this, and pretty good money if it goes well. You know what I mean? There's a commercial aspect to music that's really financially interesting. Not that I really ever gave a shit about it, but it's definitely. I always call it the byproduct of what I do, which means. But yeah, no, I had to learn that as well. Like, who collects that money? How does that work? You know what I mean? And how do you get paid? And that whole thing. I just had to learn it by going through it. But that was definitely also a kind of an upside when I found out, like, oh shit, you can actually make decent money with it.
You can live,
yeah, that's fantastic. If I can live off of it, that's all I ever wanted, you know.
Right.
So there was a lot I did not know, and now there's a lot I know about that. You just learn a whole heap by experience, and I think that's the most important thing, because in school they gave us also all these lessons about publishing and about the master side and about all of that stuff, and you sit in class and you kind of like try to absorb it and try to grasp it, but man, it's nothing like the real thing, man. When you get into that industry and you experience it firsthand, then you really start to pick up and learn and know what it's like to do the job and yeah.
So what would you say are the main sources of income for people who might want to be a songwriter or who want to produce or write songs for a living? What is the makeup? What are the ways that you can earn money mainly in that career path?
Yeah, well, it's. I think there's multiple ones. I can't speak on all of them because I haven't done all of them. But especially now with Spotify and stuff, there's just there's more ways of doing it. And when I started, this was in 2010ish, so it was also a bit more old school, I guess, in that time. But for me, definitely publishing was the thing. Like, first of all, you get money if your song is exploited in any type of commercial way, you know. And if your song or your record or whatever you have worked on is doing well on, let's say, radio, that money will come to you. That's just as simple as that. You know, if you have your name registered to a copyright on a good song, then you're going to make that money. I learned that in Holland and in Europe. Also, when you play on a record, you can make money. So if I sing backing vocals on a track that does really well, you might make quite good money as well. You know, but you have to be registered to a different organization that will get that money for you. Obviously, if you run a studio, you could sometimes you get paid for studio sessions. As a writer, this is a very rare thing, by the way, because songwriters rarely get paid unless you're I don't know, maybe do really big ones, you know what I mean? But
you mean paid for your time?
Yeah, exactly. But normally,
whereas like a session guitarist, they can get paid for the session, but a songwriter really only gets paid if the song gets placed.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's not normal for songwriters to get like any session fees or anything. Like I said, unless there's obviously exceptions, but yeah, now with Spotify, I think made it also a bit more approachable and a bit more accessible to start your own project and just release it on Spotify. You know, like one of my dear friends, who's an amazing beat creator and producer and writer from Germany. is doing that right now, and I'm just blown away by what he's doing. You know what I mean? He just thought about a project that he wanted to do and that connected to him, and he just set it up and did it himself, and he's got like his numbers are incredible, and he's literally got his own little company and making money and making music. You know, it's fantastic. But yeah, I was always in service of other people as a songwriter, so that's a different kind of situation. Yeah.
And then you're reliant on what their record does. You're also reliant to some extent on how they promote it, or whether they promote it, or whether they cut it, especially when it's a big name artist. You can get pretty far in the process, and then you still don't really know, are they going to use my song or not, right? And until it's out, you kind of don't know, right?
You never know. That's the whole thing. You can even sign the paperwork, and you still don't know. It's something that I've learned to not be attached to, you know, because you can get really disappointed a lot of times if you expect something, because in the music industry, a lot of things that they'll tell you, they're just not happening, you know. And it's all good. It's just like you have to just I think keep a healthy state of mind about it, and not get too attached to those things, because they'll drive you fucking nuts.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of weird characters in the music business too, as well, right?
100%.
I don't want borderline unethical people in the music business, shady characters in the business.
Absolutely. I mean, you get this across the board.
Characters,
I think, but absolutely
some great people as well. Some creative people.
Yeah, but you know, it's up to us to also recognize that, you know what I mean, and to pick and choose the people you want to work with, and the people that you relate to, and that's how you make your business worthwhile, and you keep your business fruitful and joyful, is by doing your business through your own filters, you know, and if somebody's a real asshole, then, to me, it never really mattered if this person was successful. I just go around it, man. That's not worth it for me. You know what I mean? Like
that comes back to your feeling. That's the intuition as well. With other people, you're like, this isn't worth it. That's going to be trouble. So fuck that guy. You know, like
I've always chosen that connection and that energy. Like, somebody might be like doing amazing numbers, but if I don't enjoy working with this person, I just don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that way I always kept my days in the studio really really fruitful and happy, because I'm always working with people that I like and that I enjoy and that I, you know, really can make a connection with, and instead of like having to sit through fucking sessions. And that was never my idea of this music thing, you know. If I wanted to have a shit time at my job, I just work for a bank or some shit.
Right.
You know, like,
Yep. I guess along those lines. So, I mean, another thing that I've noticed about you from a distance is, I think, you know, we've discussed this over the years, but when you're working for other people, there's obviously a degree of control that you do not have, right? When you're positioning a song for a Kygo or whoever else, or a DJ, like, you just simply don't know. But there's always been the part of you who did do the bands, who sings and who performs on stage. And I think that there's always been a piece of you that has always wanted that outlet as well, to say, this is what I can do. This is who I am, without any filter, without necessarily an A&R telling you what to do, or some kind of brand manager telling you what to do. And from that, you've had many bands, but you've also now started a new project called Goldkimono. So what happened there? And that's just you, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, no, what happened there was that exactly what you just said. I've been in service to other artists and people for a long time, and you know, throughout the years, I've always been like searching for a way to do something myself, but it really never really stuck or something.
Yeah.
It had to do with my own personal growth as an artist, and as what I was making at the time that just didn't really connect to myself, I guess, at that time. And I was kind of always like sort of aware that I wanted to do it, but it just never really happened. I never really got to write the material that I was like, oh fuck, that's it. And until the Goldkimono thing happened, and I started to write. It was in Los Angeles 2 years ago that I did a session where I wrote the first song. That I was like, shit, this is really aligning. You know what I mean? And which eventually became the first single that I just released last April, and then to me it became clear, like, okay, this is, my artistic self and my personal self were just like right there.
They were just right there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you have that, that's when you can really go, because then you have the vehicle. If you have the vehicle, you can cruise. And I think this is the most relevant and important thing that I see with other artists, or seeing with other artists a lot of the times, that they don't align yet. And if you don't align yet, it's really hard to position yourself or to find the direction, because if you don't have the vehicle, you're not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
And for me, that really came together. So then there was a project all of a sudden, because when I had it, I was just felt like I was going to the batting cage. I was just like, all right, another one, boom, another one, boom, you know. And so I wrote a lot of songs for in a pretty short amount of time. Worked with my friends, just a small group of my friends that got involved and liked it too, and we're attracted to it, and we're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome, let's do it, you know. And that's how that sort of got put together. And
early signs are good, right? The first single has at least 1 million plays, I think, on Spotify, maybe much more by now. I haven't checked in a while, but it's been received very well, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's gone over 4 million now, actually.
Okay. Wow! Congratulations.
It's really growing, and it's been doing a great thing in Holland on the radio. It's widely received, and so for unknown first act, so to say, it's going really well, and those are really, for me, that's so nice, because it's nice to celebrate those smaller victories, if you know what I mean, you know, because it's that's also the danger when you're working with bigger artists and you're thinking 4 million, and you're looking at like
that's nothing.
Some songs we did, exactly.
It's horrible.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really not, you know. It's really good to keep honoring the I don't know, those victories, you know. If you're, because even if you're a smaller artist like myself right now, it's great, man. Like every person to me that listens to the song and has a positive response to it is a win. So it's cool.
Well, you're probably only a step away from hundreds of millions of plays. Maybe just a year. I don't know. You have to put out a few more songs, like maybe 10 more songs, and then you'll be there, I think. So it's just it's a matter of time, I think. Let's see. All right, so let's do a little bit of a speed round now. Some rapid fire questions. All right, if you're ready for it. I think we've covered many of the main things. So first question, and first thing that comes in your mind with these. So let's just bang it out here. All right, so do you have any kind of daily routine or any type of spiritual practice that you do daily?
Spiritual practice, absolutely. Daily, sometimes. That's the thing with spiritual practice for me, is that I sort of go in and out of it. I'm always sort of open, but like anyone else, I guess we're all kind of struggling to keep the routine really going, especially for me with traveling so much. Obviously not now with COVID, but man, I'm full on. Normally I'm full on into that, like meditation and yoga and but also sports. But spiritual, definitely meditation and yoga is a big one for me. That really help ground my ass. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Who do you admire most in your field?
Oh man, that's a pretty impossible question to answer. But man, who do I admire most? There's not one person that sticks out, but there's just a lot of people that come to mind. You know, from artists that I listen to people in my personal environment, people that I've worked with or have helped me. You know what I mean? There's like so many people that are
We need a name.
that are
We need
that
we need at least
you
one
need
name.
a name.
We need a name, and we need it now.
Okay, I'll tell you who inspired me. Like
Okay.
for me as an artist, a lot.
Yeah.
The last couple of years is Anderson .Paak.
Anderson .Paak. Yeah. You introduced me to Anderson .Paak some years ago, in the beginning of his career, and yeah, what a talent! Oh my God.
He's been really to me
crazy,
sustaining an amazing vibration and an incredible virtuoso type, like musician and songwriter and rapper singer. Like he embodies this whole thing that everything I see and everything that he makes, I'm just like, ah, dude, fuck yeah, you know?
Yeah. Yep. Makes
super inspiring.
Do you feel that you're successful? Do you feel yourself to be successful or not?
That's a tough question, man, because like, I mean, to me, what is success, right? I mean, a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, you're doing so well, you're so successful," but they mean that in a commercial sense, you know. And to me, success is not having commercial success. To me, success is more along the lines of like, what's your environment around you? You know what I mean? Am I feeling good or am I fucking depressed? You know, do I have nice friends around me? Do I have a roof above my head? Like, et cetera, et cetera. So also, to me, that question has more layers than just oh yeah. But I feel blessed, you know, that for sure. And I feel good. And if you think about it in those terms, I'm feeling pretty successful.
Okay. Do you read any kind of books or for pleasure or business books or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. Business books, none. But the things that I like to read are mostly based in the spiritual realm.
Okay.
And things that just elevate my understanding and my mind and my understanding of myself. So I like to read books that are all about self-exploration and development in that sense, and then the spiritual side of it, you know. Not so much business things, but mostly that. Yeah.
Getting your head right. Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. Do you believe that you can be successful at multiple things in your life, or do you believe that you really have to pick one direction and focus in order to be successful?
Right. I think that's very personal. I think you can be successful in multiple areas, if you will, but I think they all stem from the same. They all come from the same well eventually. You know. So I kind of see it as one thing.
Like,
it's like a tree. It has more branches, but it's the same tree. I believe in that. I don't believe that
great
you can.
Metaphor. I like that.
Yeah, I don't. I think that will be my answer. You know, I think that's possible. I think it's not possible to be different trees, if you understand what I mean.
You're always the same tree, man. That really hits home with me. That resonates, my friend. I like that a lot. I feel that deeply. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's how I see it, at least.
Okay, where have you gone against conventional wisdom in your career, or have you?
Conventional wisdom probably starts with don't be a musician, because it's a great way to start. I think the root of my whole career, any musician's career, probably goes against conventional wisdom. And then I think I've done that a lot of times, actually, you know. But that's just about being like believing in your own path and having a vision. And if you're a person with a vision, then I think it mostly goes against convention, because a lot of people will tell you to do something a certain way. I was always about absolutely taking advice if it resonated, but for the most part, I just did my own thing. So yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I really do believe that about you.
It goes for songwriting as well. I think that's also important to note, because there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions or like things that people throw at you also in sessions that they think are like rules, but it's really whatever works, you know.
Right.
So I think the less conventions, the better.
That's great. Is there something that you believe that almost no one else believes?
I don't think so. I the best belief you can have, it starts with believing in yourself, and I think that's a lot of times what you have to do before other people believe you. Especially in this profession, because nobody's going to push you to do this. Nobody's going to push you to write songs or to produce or whatever. You know what I mean? It really begins with that thing like, hey, fuck, I can do this. I'm going to do this.
Right.
And so I think if we're talking about belief, I think that would be the first thing that I think about is you believe in yourself, and before anybody else does.
That makes sense. Do you think that burnout is a risk for you or not at all?
100%. I think burnout is an absolute risk for me, and I've been there.
Okay.
So yeah, totally.
So when you feel that way, are there patterns or are there things that you've noticed that lead up to that, or is it just random? Like some days I feel bad, some days I feel good.
No, it's absolutely not random. It's especially when you're aware of your own energies and what you're doing. I think a lot of people miss the boat on recognizing the signals. But I think it's once you start to figure that out, it's never random. It always is. The body tells you exactly where you're at. It's just you have to listen, and you have to see that you build that connection between here and here, that you actually realize it, and and that's when you can break that circle. But the way I say it now is like it sounds easy, but it's absolutely not. And I've really struggled with that myself, and I'm still on the learning curve, because burnout, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Okay. Yeah. And I think that's probably good for some people to hear, because, I think there's a misconception that if you're living your dream or doing what you love, that burnout is no longer an option or something, or no longer a possibility. But you're saying, yes, you can love what you're doing. You can be very much in the moment and happy with your career, but still sometimes.
Dude, what you love, it can literally kill you. And that's, I don't even say that with a grain of salt. Like that's eventually what it comes down to if you don't take care of yourself. At least that's what I experienced firsthand, So to me, it's absolutely, you can do what you love and just crash hard.
Are there all right, so what do you recommend in that moment? What can you do self-care, or what can you do to help yourself, give yourself the space to get out of that? Or, I mean, is that just saying, I'm not going to work anymore, I'm taking a break from all projects, I'm just going to go out into nature? Or what would kind of recognizing those signs and fixing it look like?
Well, it starts with a true understanding of what is going on with yourself. You can go out in nature, but if you don't, which is great, by the way, but if you don't really go to the core understanding of what's going on with you and why this is happening to you, it'll come back, So first, I think that's the most important thing, that you have to go to the core of it and understand what your behavior, what your patterns is, and what you're doing to yourself. And if you find that out, fucking awesome. And then, by all means, definitely go into nature and use all those amazing things that are out there for you to nurture yourself, to get back to a good and healthy state. And I think that's really important. But it really begins with that understanding and awareness about yourself. And I think that a lot of times we forget the self, because we're always looking out to the product, we're always looking to the song, or we're looking to the building, we're looking to a painting, but the person behind it that makes all this shit, we forget to look at that person and like, how does it work? How do I work? You know what I mean? Like, what's good for me? What's bad for me? What do I do? What do I say? How do I communicate? Like all that shit.
Yeah.
You're the apparatus. You're the thing. You're the beautiful mind or the beautiful soul creating it. So it only makes sense that we think about what's going on here, But oftentimes we don't, because we get caught up in, like, how it goes. Like,
for sure. So I think one of the most unusual things about being in the business of being creative is there's always, to me, like this tension between, record labels, they are a business, they just want to make money. There's the people who just want money, money, money. They only care about hits. But then you've got artists and creatives, and as much as you'd love to make everything about money, or like, I'm going to make the next #1 Billboard hit, there's always this deep thing that's internal from which all of that art springs, right? So nobody ever got into a studio and made some magic happen by focusing on the money. So how do you feel about, this tension between, expressing yourself and being vulnerable and tapping into that deepest part of yourself, and these external commercial forces that, like if you were a banker, it'd be very easy. It's just, okay, my goal is to make more money. This is how we make more money. You basically live on that side of the world. But when you're like, okay, I need to pay my bills by being vulnerable, by being creative, by expressing myself, there's automatically some kind of interesting tension there. So how have you been able to navigate that in your own life?
By totally dividing them. So to me, the money and that whole thing, I that was never part of my creative process. I never thought about it. I never thought about like, oh, I need to be in the radio. The only thing that I focused on always was my joy and my true like interest in what I was doing, which was writing songs or producing songs. You know what I mean? And what happens is if you singly focus on that and you're not busy with am I going to make money? Because that's eventually what that eventually means is that you put a lot of trust. You put a lot of trust into the process that you're doing, whether that's writing or producing or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That means that you focus on that craft, and that means that also your whole being and all your energies are spear pointed towards that, which means that you get a much better result, because you don't. I'm not in the headspace of worrying about like how am I going to make money. No, that's not the question. You know what I mean? It will come if you do the process. It will come. No, it might take you a second, might take you a while, but it will 100% come. But in order to do that, you gotta, see the process, and you gotta have that trust, and you gotta not worry about materialistic gains. You gotta, you know what I mean? Because if you put that first, then you're clouding the process. And to me, that's never a way I worked. So to me, a lot of people say to me, oh yeah, but it's easy to talk for you because you have all this commercial success. But I always say to people, hey, listen, this is how I always was. It's the other way around. I got my commercial success because of this, not the other way around. You know what I mean? Does it make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And I think, again, knowing you, that I can vouch that is 100% true. Like, to anybody who have any doubts, I know for sure that you have always approached it that way. And I also know that like that is 100% genuine what you're saying right now, and true for your life and career.
And I think what works for one person might not work for another, but there is I think a piece of truth in that. You know what I mean? And and eventually, I don't people have to figure this out for themselves. And but to me, that's how it worked for me.
Okay.
Totally dividing the two, and money, success, byproduct of being in the studio, creating, making music, collaborating,
feeling.
It's a byproduct. It's not the other way around.
Fascinating. Well, now we're going to get to the most important question, the final main question of this interview. By far the most important question, so I hope you're ready for it. It's very, very serious, okay? So a little bit of gravity. We need a little bit of gravity for this. It's a very serious question. So if you were going to be inducted into a boy band, NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys?
For sure, the Backstreet Boys.
All right, and why?
Don't even have to think about that. Well, I guess for me it's also because I think the Backstreet Boys were a lot more how do you say that? Popular? Yeah, they were a lot more popular in the country where I grew up. So I was like indoctrinated with that shit at one point. Dude, honestly, like I loved those records back then, but you know how it is. You have a hard time admitting that if you're a dude. But when I listen to all that shit now, I'm just like, dude, those are such good songs, you know?
Yep.
And not that NSYNC had shit songs, but I just Backstreet's back, man. I fucking
right.
I'm a Backstreet boy.
There you go. Easy. That's easy. Okay, man. Well, that's the main part of the interview. Before we wrap up here, tell everybody, like, what are you promoting right now? Where can people find you? What's the next thing on the horizon? You got a new song dropping. What do you want to promote here?
What do I want to promote, man? I just want to promote. I don't know. I have a lot to promote. I think if people want to look me up, then I think Spotify would be the way to go. Goldkimono or Instagram.
No space. Yep. No space.
No, just
one
like,
word. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we'll put a link up here as well.
Yeah. Next to that, I would promote good health, man, and self-development and exploration. That's what I would promote. And I do have a single coming out 2nd of October, but that's also Goldkimono. So
Okay.
I'd say keep an eye out for that one. And that's it, man.
We definitely will. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. This has been awesome. Some really good gems in there, I think.
Dude, it was a pleasure talking to you.